I'd like to start off by watching one of the great philosophers of our age. Thanks, Richard.
Hello. My name's Forrest Gump. Do you want a chocolate? I could eat about 1.5 million of these. My mom always said life was like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're gonna get.
One of the famous lines from the famous film Forrest Gump. And Forrest's mum, I think, was a bit of a philosopher. She looked out on life and saw the uncertainty and the surprise and the good and the bad that you didn't know coming around the corner. But when it arrived, you just kind of had to deal with it. And she thought it's a little bit like one of those boxes you buy at the supermarket of chocolates where you can't see inside the packaging. You just buy it and take it home and you see what's there. And one day you might put your hand in and come out with this beautiful, gooey, chocolatey, caramello, goodnessy morsel. Delicious. And then the next day you might put your hand in and pull out a Turkish delight. I mean, really? Does anyone actually like Turkish delights? Oh, come on. You know where liars go. Straight to Parliament. Maybe they just put Turkish delight in there for contrast, right? Maybe it's kind of the black and the white thing. I don't know. But if Forrest's mum lived 2,000 or 3,000 years ago, she wouldn't be talking about boxes. She would be talking to little Forrest about cups. Because cups were the containers that held the good and the bad, right? The delicious wine and the disgusting medicine would come to you in the same cup. And just by looking at the cup from the outside, you could not tell what was inside the cup, whether it was going to be delicious or whether it was going to be terrible. You had no way of knowing. The cup gave away as few secrets as did the cardboard box. And so cups, just like cardboard boxes and chocolate boxes are for us, became a metaphor for the things that came to you in life and the things that God brought you in life. And sometimes the cup of life would be filled with terrible things, Turkish delight things, right? Cups became a metaphor for pain and for judgment from God on the things that we had done wrong, on the consequences of our actions. And so God says to a prophet called Jeremiah, he says, take from my hand this cup filled with the wine of my anger, wine of my wrath, and make all the nations to whom I send you drink it. It was a metaphor for the consequences of their behavior that he was finally visiting on them. And in other places, he talks and turns his attention to Jerusalem, to his own city, his own people, and says, rise up, Jerusalem, you who have drunk from the hand of the Lord the cup of his wrath. You have drained to its dregs the goblet that makes people stagger. And so that the picture of a cup became a picture of the judgment of God, the consequences for our evil. Cups can be filled with very, very bad things. When I was a youth pastor, I used to lead a lunchtime Christian group in the local school, the high school. And at times we would do some fun activities, we'd do some things out in the open just to kind of say, yay, Christians aren't weird, we have fun too, you know, and kind of get people involved in that way. And one of the things we did was a disgusting food eating competition, right? And so you know the drill. You get a cup and you put equal parts of Hokey Pokey ice cream and Marmite and soy sauce, and you mix it all together, and you say, okay, who's willing to eat this? And it was kind of a competition, and people sort of dropped off along the way. There was one girl there she was staunch, man. She was a Westie, right? And all that means. And she got to the final round, and I had a cup there, and it was filled with my pièce de résistance. It was a big blob of green wasabi. This stuff will set your mouth on fire just by looking at it, all right? Just by looking at it. There's probably some people of a more Asian persuasion here today who are saying, what are you talking about? I eat it for breakfast. But no, for us Westerners, this is really, really intense, right? And so I promised this young woman a movie ticket if she could eat a teaspoon of this stuff. No problem, she said. And so she took a teaspoon and she dipped it into the wasabi in the cup. And out came the wasabi. I looked at it. It was a fair teaspoon. She popped it in her mouth. She chewed. She swallowed. She gasped. She started sweating. She started vomiting into the nearby bushes. And very, very soon, she started saying, I need to go to the nurse. And so she had to take this poor dear girl into the school nurse with intense stomach pains because she was in such agony from this wasabi. Christian groups are so fun. Not very good advertising. So cups can be symbols of bad things. They can be symbols of pain and judgment. But cups can also bring delicious things our way as well, right? They can be good things. And so cups also became a symbol for blessings that God could bring us. People like King David, 23rd Psalm, what does he say? My cup overflows. The good things you've poured into my life overflows. And the cup was a metaphor for good things. In other places, people would say how God had changed their life, had rescued them, and they would say, God, you are my salvation. You have filled my cup with rescue, with salvation. And other people in other places would look to God and say, God, you know what? You are my portion. You are what is in my cup. You alone are my portion and my cup. And this whole idea of cups being a blessing and a good thing as well would have been very familiar to Jesus. Because every year at Passover time, he would have sat around a Passover table. And during the course of the Passover meal, he would have had 4 cups of wine as an adult. And every single one of these 4 cups stood for a promise that God had made. 1 cup, I will bring you out of slavery. Another cup, cup number 2, I will deliver you out from bondage. Cup number 3, I will redeem you. Cup number 4, I will take you as my own. And these were part of the Passover meal. 4 cups, symbols, pictures made visible of blessing and goodness. And so it's no wonder that one night, with the light from the lamps flickering over the faces of his friends, he uses the picture of a cup as a symbol of the most amazing blessing. The ultimate blessing that God was going to give people. He took a cup, and when he'd given thanks, he gave it to them and said, drink from it, all of you. This is my blood of the covenant, which is poured out for many for the forgiveness of sins. Life is like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get. Life is like a cup. You don't know what's inside. Well, Jesus says to them, this cup, you know exactly what you're going to get. The undeserved forgiveness of God. the unreserved favor of God. This is my gift offered to you. Have you taken that cup? Have you taken that cup? A cup needs to be taken for it to do any good. Have you said to Jesus, the forgiveness you're offering, I am receiving? Have you given your life to the Lord? Do you live grateful every day for the blessings that God has achieved? Because if you do not receive it, they are hanging there waiting for your hand to stretch out. Maybe today is a day you need to give your life to the Lord fully. Take the cup. Enjoy the blessings. I'll put that challenge out there this morning. But as he handed out the cup of blessing to his friends, I wonder if Jesus' mind was also on another cup. Fast forward a couple of hours, a few minutes maybe, we don't know, and you'll find Jesus in a garden. Dirt and grass stains on his face from where he's thrown himself onto the ground, we're told. Tear stains tracking down his cheeks. This always gets me, this picture. Blood itself oozing from his skin, we are told. As if life was already leaving him. That picture just gets me. And he's sobbing words of desperation to his father. And in these words, he talks about another cup. Going a little farther, he fell with his face to the ground and prayed, "My Father, if it is possible, may this cup be taken from me." I don't want this cup, is what he's saying. This cup terrifies me, right? This cup symbolizes all of the madness of people who have turned their back on their Creator. All the consequences of that madness for all time, from all people, from all places. This cup is the holy anger of a God who is held back and held back and held back and held back and held back through all of history so that finally he could bring justice and judgment on the one person who can handle it, his son Jesus. This cup is so devastating that even though he's been walking forward towards it all of his life, and even before creation was started, we are told, in this moment he does not know if he can take it. Wrap your mind around that. This is no trivial thing. But Jesus knows something. That first cup, the cup of blessing, that cup that symbolizes grace and forgiveness that he offered earlier that night cannot be given unless the second cup of pain is taken, right? One cup cannot be given unless the second cup is taken. And so he makes his decision in the garden. He will drink from the cup of death in order to offer the cup of life. And from that moment on, nothing will stop him. When the mob comes with their swords and with their army, and Peter in his righteous self-defense pulls out his sword and attacks one of them, what does Jesus say to them? Put your sword away. Why? Shall I not drink the cup that the Father has given to me? His gaze is set. His step is firm. He's made his decision. He's taking this cup so that the first cup can be offered in truth. One of my children, who shall not be named, is currently working towards getting his driver's license. And a remarkable thing has happened. I now have a brand new backseat driver. I'll be driving my kids in the car, and occasionally a voice will come back from the back seat saying, "Oh, Dad, you shouldn't have done that. No, you're supposed to indicate 3 seconds before turning a corner, Dad. Crossing the middle line, you've got to indicate every time you cross the middle line, Dad." I've always had another backseat driver, but now I've got 2 of them. And he's looking at me closely in a way he never did before, because he's following in my footsteps, or my tyre tracks. If we wish to follow people, we observe them, don't we? We observe what they do. As we follow Jesus, what do we observe? We observe that 2 cups were not just before him, they are also before us, because we are following him. James and John were 2 disciples of Jesus who had helicopter mother. You heard of helicopter mothers? They had helicopter mothers too back in those days. She was very ambitious for her 2 strapping lads. And so she comes up with their 2 boys to Jesus one day and says, "Grant that these 2 sons of mine may sit at your right and the other at the left in your kingdom. Give me the good stuff." So he's saying, forget about the Turkish delight. Just going to push that one. We don't want the Turkish delight. We want the caramello, Jesus. We don't want the nasty medicine cup. We want the good cup. We want the good stuff, but not the bad stuff, is what she's saying to Jesus. What does Jesus say? "Can you drink the cup I am going to drink?" "We can," they answered. Well, Jesus said to them, "You will indeed drink the cup, but to sit at my right or left is not for me to grant." What is Jesus saying here? If you want to follow after me, you need to be prepared to drink from both cups. You want the blessing, the good stuff, the cup of lightness and forgiveness and joy? It's there. But understand that when you follow this kind of a Savior, you will also need to drink from the other cup. And maybe this is where Forrest Gump gets it right. Because following Jesus each day, we don't know what's going to happen. You know, we just don't. But it means committing to accept the good and the bad, whatever may come. It means serving him in easy places and in hard places. It means taking the good and the bad. It means being ready in season and out of season. It means showing your friends that you love Jesus in times when you are popular and in times when you're not popular. And Jesus turns to James and John and says, "Are you up for this?" And he turns to us and he says the same thing. The Easter story is a story of 2 cups. To follow Jesus is to take both. Are you doing that? This morning, there are 2 cups. We'll call them jugs, but we'll call them cups perhaps. Over here is the cup of blessing. This is filled with juice. We use it for communion so often because communion is that cup of blessing. And I want to invite you just a few moments after I've finished talking to pour some of the juice from the cup that represents all that Jesus achieved for you and me. Pour it into the little communion cup. and drink it and give thanks, reflect, worship, pray. You can stay up here, you can kneel, you can take it back to your seat, up to you. That might be something you want to do today, you need to do today. But over here is another cup, and this is the cup of pain. This is not juice, so don't drink this one, right? This is darkness and suffering and hardship. And some of these portions of hardship and pain and suffering get doled out to us in life. They just do. For us to follow Jesus means sometimes taking it. If this is a table you want to engage with this morning, take one of these small cups that have been filled already and pour it into the large cup of pain. This symbolizes our pain. The big one symbolizes Christ's pain. And as you do that, you might want to pray for strength. You might want to give thanks that Jesus understands our pain. You might want to pray for endurance. I'll leave it to you as well. If you'd like to respond to the Lord, just do that now.